yesterday. We went, I thought, well, had good energy out there. We didn't go in pads on Monday. We're starting to, as the end of the year goes, we're trying to take a little less off of them. But we went full today, got after it good. Kids had good energy and did some good on good periods. You know, their offense has some similarities to ours, so from the run standpoint, we got to work against each other, so that was good. We had to work on some special teams, and we'll work third down in the red area tomorrow.
Coach, you talked yesterday about self-talk and how important that is. You know, after a couple of days of practice this week, where do you think you guys are in that way? I mean, is the energy positive? Is it where you would like it to be in terms of their attitude?
Yeah, it's been really good. The kids have had good energy. The coaching staff has, the support staff. I mean, we've tried to ramp that up to make sure that we can help these kids with that, because it's tough. It's tough on them. So it's a lot easier on us because we're in this building all day. You know, they're out there on campus and everywhere. So we've tried to provide them with some juice and energy. And to be honest, a lot of those guys are, Sony especially, Nick, they've had good juice out of practice, and they're helping keep everybody energized. And it gets good energy when we go against each other, especially when it's cool. Today was a cooler day, so they got to go against each other, and they like doing that. So that part's been good.
What's your punting situation looking at? Have you made any progress during the week in terms of?
They're both still working. You know, obviously one's left and one's right, so that dictates some of it. And we try to go literally off of practice and which guy punts better in practice. And consistently, the new kids punted better than Bryce, but we decided to change it up in the game because he wasn't punting real well, and we'll decide based on practice this week. So they both punted this week, and we'll go with whichever one we think hits it best tomorrow and Thursday.
Does Bryce, he's always on with the specialist when we come out there at least. Is he just a specialist now, or is he doing quarterback work as well?
He's doing quarterback. I didn't know what period he's over there. I mean, when y'all see him out there, he's with the quarterbacks pretty much all day. He goes specialist, Indy, punt periods. He's obviously with the specialist, and then he takes a couple in other periods. But he's still over there getting some reps now because his hand's better. And he's throwing with the two, so I'm alternating with Grayson. So.
What kind of progress for the strength and conditioning program you've seen since Coach Sinclair's taken over? Are you pleased with the progress they have made in that regard?
The biggest thing to go by is when you have statistical measures, which are numbers, which, you know, everybody tries to fill those because every strength coach in America is trying to make their numbers look better. The players is the number one thing to go by because they're the ones that can tell you, I feel stronger than I did this time last year. I feel like I'm more physical than I did this time last year. But it's hard to measure in season because you're only lifting 2 times a week. So we're not maxing. We're not like going for goals. We're just trying to maintain strength. And he does a good job of that. He's sold the kids on what he believes, and we're able to squat and do some things in season that are really important to keeping strength up.
You think injury prevention has been a big part of that as well? I mean, you guys seem to have been able to fight those off pretty well.
Yeah, knock on wood, but you know we're probably hurting now more than we have in the last, I guess, since the Florida game and today and the last couple of days we were getting guys dinged up, so it's getting a little bit frustrating. But yeah, I would say up until now we've been pretty lucky compared to other people in the league.
Speaking of Coach Sinclair, it looks like during the games he'll also pull you back there by the belt. Why does he do that, and is that something you guys have talked about?
Well, he does it because it's a rule. You get warnings as a head coach or any coach for being on the field, and we've been warned several times. And officials, they want someone to keep the coaches back. So he's been designated to me, but then I'm designated to everybody else because we're trying to stay back. You don't want a 15-yard penalty, and they often threaten us. They give you one warning, and that's kind of your deal. And once I get one warning, I tell him I better not get a 15-yard penalty or it's on you. So he does a good job keeping me off. But I think everybody has that problem.
Jason Stanley, is he one of those guys that got dinged up this week?
No, his was, that wasn't during the game. He's got a mild infection that he's having to deal with. So we think he'll be fine, but he was not out there today. But we think he's going to be okay.
Has Daquan been out at all this week?
He's not been out to practice, no. We've been rehabbing him, running him, doing some things, trying to do cardio off the field, but he has not been able to practice yet.
DeAndre Baker's a guy that had 10 tackles against Florida. You know, how have you seen him progress this season, especially when he kind of was hampered by injury for a little bit?
Yeah, he, you know, I think I've said several times, he was like, I mean, he had a really good camp. I mean, we could have started him to start the season. It was like dead even. I mean, we even talked about playing him, I think, against North Carolina, and it didn't happen. And he came and saw me a couple times. He was so frustrated. He thought he had a really good camp, thought he won a job, and it was so close. And that's why it was so immediate in whatever game it was that, I think it was Ole Miss, that we put him in there. And he's never really relinquished that. He did get injured. I forget what game he got injured in.
Yeah, that's before, he didn't play Vanderbilt, right?
Right, he didn't play Vanderbilt. He got hurt, it happened before, it happened the week of practice of Vanderbilt. He gets injured, and then he doesn't play Vanderbilt, but since he's come back, he's done nothing but retain his job. Well, he takes practice so serious, and he takes pride in tackling. And we've challenged these corners that if you want to play, you got to tackle. And that's one of the areas we've been really weak in, and he's been really strong in. And we've talked about him. I mean, he had the most points for the Florida game because of that production, and we pointed it out to the kids. And and I thought he made a good play on the ball down in the end zone, but he ended up getting a PI on it. So.
Kirby, how much emphasis has there been with Jacob on extending plays with his feet, and how does that expand his game?
Well, it's been a blessing, obviously, for us. It was really the only positive thing that happened. I mean, we haven't emphasized it. I think sometimes that just happens and the kid gets more comfortable. Where earlier in the season, I thought he jumped the gun and didn't scramble. Sometimes he could have. He's kind of gotten comfortable with it. And we kid him because his GPS has gone up each game, which means he's escaping faster. So he's either getting faster or he's more scared running faster. But he's improved at that, and you're right. He's extended them and made some good decisions to step up in the pocket. I still wish he would get a first down so we can stop the clock and not slide before he gets there. But he'll get better at it.
Coach, what's the situation technically with Solomon Kinley? If I may be mistaken, so correct me if I'm wrong, that he only played like one play against Missouri, but I see in practice he's in that rotation, getting a lot of work. Is he eligible for a red shirt, or you got to play him at this point?
He's probably not going to be eligible for a red shirt, but it was never in the plan. The plan was he was going to be the next best guard. So you have to rep those guys as if they're going to play. And you hope that there's going to be some games that you get to play them in. We haven't had any games like that. And that's been the frustrating part, because in retrospect, you could look back and say, why did you play? But at that point in time, I guess it was the third game of the year maybe, it was a situation where we thought surely he would play, more throughout the year. You lose a guy, now you've got a guy that's got playing experience. There's certain guys that we're not playing, then there's guys we're playing, and if somebody gets hurt, they're going to play even more. He was in that mold. Yeah. And he's just been caught in it where we haven't been able to get him more playing time, but he gets tons of reps in practice. He's growing up and looking at it that way.
He didn't go to Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
He
He didn't go to Jacksonville, but
he was still in the rotation there.
Right.
And that came down to a numbers game. We're only allowed to travel 70. We felt like we needed more depth on some special teams. He obviously doesn't help special teams, so that was a situation there that we pulled him off. And he may still be able to get a red shirt and just give a game back. So we're still looking at some options there, because it was in the first 4 games that it occurred in.
Well, Pat Allen made that trip to Jacksonville. Is that kind of signal? Has he kind of stepped up a little bit and starting to make a little bit of noise? Or
Well, to me, Pat Allen's been in the mix the whole time. He's done a good job. Pat and Solomon have kind of battled for that next spot, but it's not the next guard, it's the next guard, if you know what I mean, because there's 3 guards playing. So it's a situation where one of those 2 would play if we lost 2 guards. And that has gone back and forth. It started out Solomon, kind of went back to Pat, it's been back to Solomon. It's based on how they do each week. But Pat works down with us on the scout team, but he also goes over for a couple periods a day with Coach Pittman and gets reps with the offense. So it's part of the reason he went too.
What rule are you referencing where you can give a game back for a red shirt?
There's a couple things that you can do, whether you have an injury, which Solomon's had some things that you can get one back. Then also, if you play a certain number of plays in the first 4 games, that you can sometimes get a year back. So we're basically looking into all those with him to hopefully get it back. But to be honest with you, if he's a really good player down the road, like we think he will be, then he may not play that next year anyway. So,
Coach, Kentucky's got high-powered rushing attack. How important is it going to be for your secondary to step up and help with run support, and has that been a point of emphasis?
It has, but we're so dinged up. I mean, I think everybody is. What happens when you play Kentucky is one guy misses a gap, and you've got a back coming downhill on your secondary really quick, and there's a lot of missed tackles. I mean, the bottom line is people don't like tackling nowadays, and people who don't like to tackle don't tackle well. And they're running through tackles. They're running through people. They've got 2 kinds of backs. They got lightning and they got thunder. And they're doing a good job with those guys of really hitting and pounding it up in there. And there's not a lot of folks willing to tackle them when you watch the tape. And that's that's part of the issue. These guys run the ball really, really well.
Kirby, I know you want your defense to get better on third down and red zone, that kind of stuff, but is it hard to keep some of them from being discouraged when they have pretty decent outings overall and W's at the end?
Not at all. I mean, this group, I mean, I guess maybe they went through that some last year. There's some frustrations, and we've told them that it doesn't matter. We have to do what we have to do to win.
Right.
And if we don't create turnovers, we don't create positive field position by stopping them on third down. That's our job. So they know. I mean, I really thought there was a point in that Florida game right there at the end that they were just hell bent. They were going to go out there and punish somebody, and that's what we play for, to go punish the other team, not look at the scoreboard. And I thought they did that. It's the first time I thought, you know what? They didn't care about the scoreboard. They just wanted to go out there and stop them over and over again. And they found joy in that, and that's all they can do right now is control that.
Time for one more. Anybody? Okay.
Thank you.